26th thesis statement is that visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to the eyes directly connects with the inner child. Thus, mirror meditations or mindfulness practices where visual stimulus is 6 inches or closer to the eyes can create everyday healing moments for the inner child. Discovering this was an epic, miraculous journey. While healing myself from early childhood trauma, I connected with my age-regressive states of consciousness who exclusively experienced neurobiological activity from my stages of early neurodevelopment, infancy, toddlerhood, middle childhood, all the different years of early neurodevelopment, those early formative years of childhood. While exploring my unique experiences of consciousness, I began realizing that visual stimulus from different distances was processed through independent states of consciousness. My body was living with multiple persons inside of it, surviving incomprehensibly severe traumatic stress. And the person in me who processed visual stimulus from right here was different from the person inside of me who processed visual stimulus from right here. And these persons were different from the person who processed visual stimulus from way out there. Every single time, it was age-regressive child states of consciousness who were able to connect with up-close visual stimulus. Part of my theory about why this happened stems from neuroscience. During the first few months of life, infants can only see about 8 to 12 inches away from the face. While the brain is still in those critical periods of development where it's just existing as a human being in the world, it can't yet process the majority of stimulus. It would be too overwhelming. And so the brain and the body only absorb stimulus about 8 to 12 inches away. That allows the infant to connect with their parent or caregiver as the parent leans in and begins the process of attachment development that stimulates neurodevelopment. After several months, the brain and the body have achieved more development and can then acquire visual stimulus from farther out. But during those first few months of life, the very first neural networks to develop within our brain and our body have only experienced visual stimulus from a few inches away from the face. This is part of my theory about why this happens. But my thesis is that visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to the face directly connects with our inner child. And applying this insight along the everyday healing journey of life can create some profoundly transformative moments. For example, when you're doing a mirror meditation, instead of having the mirror be far away, you can have the mirror very close to you. I have another theory about why this is effective. When you look in a mirror and you see your full body or you see your full face, you immediately understand that you are an adult or whatever age that you are at the present day of personal experience. However, when you are much closer to a mirror, you're not taking in the stimulus of your full face or your full body. You're just focusing on your eyes. Because you're close to the mirror, your eyes are basically all you're seeing. You're not getting the full picture of your body as it presently exists. In this process, you can connect with the understanding that these are the same eyes that you had as an infant. These are the same eyes that you had when you were 2 years old. These are the same eyes that you had when you were 5 years old. And so the unconscious body-mind does this very, very cool thing where it can connect with the knowings of the inner child because it's looking directly at it. Everything else has changed. The face, the hair, the body, the height, the muscles, everything in the brain-body system has changed except for the eyes. The eyeballs, the color of the eyes, the patterns of the iris. All the different elements of the eyeballs are the exact same from being young. And because the unconscious body-mind remembers all of its elements of personal experience from being young, it understands that in a way that our conscious mind will never fully grasp. The unconscious body mind remembers everything. Every nanosecond of personal experience is all stored in our implicit neural wiring. When we connect with ourselves in a mirror meditation where we're very, very close to the mirror, 2 to 6 inches away, and you can even take another amplified step forward and have a magnified mirror. For example, while healing some of my very, very young states of consciousness, I used a mirror that was magnified times 7, and I had it about an inch or 2 from my face. That allowed me to connect with neural networks from the most early stages of my neurodevelopment. The more time I spent there in loving presence and self-connection, the more I was expanding my neural connectivity. So neural wiring stemming from my stages of early neurodevelopment had more connectivity with neural wiring developed during adulthood. So the closer you are to the mirror and the more magnified your eyeballs are, the younger you are connecting with your inner child. Magnified really close might connect with you from being an infant, while not magnified 6 inches away might connect with you from middle childhood or elementary school years. So in this process of a mirror meditation where you have a mirror very close to your face, 6 inches or closer, if it's farther than that, it has a different neurobiological effect from what I've discovered. So when you have the mirror very close and you're connecting with your inner experiencer by looking into the colored portion of your eyes as your face is reflected back at you, then you are directly connecting with your inner child. And it's amazing because when the visual stimulus is not processing the data of the full adult face, then the illusion of separation dissolves and the adult self has a greater opportunity to be in loving presence with the inner child, reaching all the way into the greatest depths of the neurobiological applications of consciousness, down into the deep roots of the neural foundation and parts of self-essence, experiencing realities of the inner child, and there can be some profound healing transformation. And then you can use this in any way. You can sing to yourself, you can talk to yourself, you can listen to affirmations, you can even listen to a children's bedtime story just while sustaining eye contact with your inner child. There's a million ways you can apply this. But when you have the mirror 6 inches or closer from your face, if you want to go deeper, use a magnified mirror, and you're looking at the colored portion of your eyes directly connecting with your inner experiencer with the intention of connecting with your inner child from your adult self, there can be some profound healing transformation. When this healing journey practice is applied regularly, it gradually expands neural connectivity, improving fluid flows throughout the neurobiological applications of consciousness as the deep depths of neural data from childhood gradually link with all the different regions of neural wiring into regions of adulthood, and then all aspects of self start to experience healing homecomings very gradually. This concept can be applied in everyday mindfulness practices as well. For example, when you're snacking on an apple, instead of just eating the apple and kind of just doing whatever, looking wherever, thinking whatever, you can hold the apple 6 inches or closer to your face. Have your eyes visually focus on elements of the apple. Maybe you see little bubbles from the juices, or you see the sunlight reflecting off it, and it kind of reveals the different molecules of magic in the apple. Whatever it is, you practice mindfulness with something 6 inches or closer to your face. You're directly creating healing experiences for your inner child through loving presence. Mindfulness practices in general are really epic and helpful, and they help us be grounded in the moment and connected and all kinds of things. But specifically when we practice mindfulness by focusing on visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to our eyes, we're not just creating healing for who we are now, we're actually creating healing for the childhood versions of ourselves who were, and parts of consciousness who are continually experiencing neural wiring sculpted from those stages of early neural development. The longer we stay in those moments of practicing mindfulness, the more healing our inner child can experience. For example, if you're snacking on the apple and you just kind of glance at it, there's not going to be a lot of healing. But if you stay there for a full 5 minutes, and with every bite that you chew, you're simultaneously focusing on visual stimulus very close to your face with an intention of loving presence, you're creating a profound moment of healing transformation for your inner child. Because in that 5 minutes, every nanosecond is impacting neural wiring. And that neural data affects how parts of our consciousness experience themselves and the present moment now and in the infinite potentials of nows to come. So every nanosecond of that 5 minutes is producing healing transformation for our inner child. And when we add mindfulness practices like this throughout our everyday healing journeys of life, then even a couple months can produce some radical restoration for our inner child. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here every day. That's a whole bunch of nanoseconds of neural transformation to bring restoration, transformation, and liberation to our inner child. When we add this idea to concepts of healing attachment systems and liberating our inner child into the fullness of all they truly are, even more healing potentials ignite. For example, while you're eating, you might have the spoon in your hand or fork or whatever utensil you're using to eat, and you pick up the food in your spoon, and while you're bringing the food to your mouth, you look at your hand, which is 6 inches or closer to your face, and your adult self, who is in a space of observation, connects with the experiential self, who includes the inner child, then you can start to heal your attachment systems. Okay, play with me here a little bit. While you're eating, you're picking up the spoon, and you're not just you eating by yourself. You're you eating with your experiential self. You're your observational self who's having dinner or whatever meal it is with your life partner, your best friend, and your inner child, okay? And while you pick up the spoon and you're snacking, you got it. Before you bring that spoonful of food to your mouth, your eyes can represent your observational self, and your hand could represent your inner child. And then your eyes are seeing the energetic existence of your inner child. You got to use your imagination here a little bit. The power of directing your internal energy is everything along the healing journey of life. But your eyes are seeing your inner child and lovingly connecting with their presence. And just that shift of internal energy can produce some profound healing. So then you're eating and you just take a moment of pause. And you just kind of look at your hand and you use your imagination a little bit, and you energetically connect with your inner child, because visual stimulus 6 inches or closer connects with the inner child, and this is the same hand that your child had before it grew into an adult's hand. So the neural data of having a hand that was a child is actually still in this. Okay, there's a whole bunch of data inside of our hands. There's energetic intel in neural wiring throughout our whole body. Your hand has memories of being a child. From the perspective of a hand, of course, not the whole perspective of being a whole child. It just has the perspective of being a hand of a child. But you get the picture. Neural data is everywhere in our brains and our bodies. So there's some aspect of our hand that actually remembers being the hand of a child. So when we're picking it up, visual stimulus 6 inches or closer connects with our inner child. When we shift the power of our internal energy, our observational self can connect with our experiential self and grow attachments to the inner child. And in this process, neural data undergoes radical reconstruction to improve energetic flows within the unconscious body-mind. It can help integrate neural data within the neurobiological social engagement system, and it can help increase nervous system relaxation, among the infinite potential healing journey benefits. So as simple and silly as it might seem, you're actually healing the unconscious body-mind in the deepest way possible when you practice things like this. And because the unconscious body-mind learns through repetition, the more that you do it, the more healing transformation you produce from the inside out. Another powerful way to use this concept is to internally picture your inner child, or internally have a visual of the child versions of you while you practice mindfulness. Okay, so for example, while you're doing yoga, your eyes might see the grass that you're on, and you're close to the grass, 6 inches or closer, and you're focusing on the blades of the grass, and you're focusing on the visual particulars of what you're seeing as closely as possible. Okay, while you're doing yoga and connecting in loving presence with yourself and focusing on mindfulness practices 6 inches or closer to your face, you internally picture your inner child. For example, you might have a picture of you from childhood, and you kind of look at it for a while, and you kind of just have a picture of your inner child ingrained in your mind, and then you pull that file up, basically, internally. So you're doing yoga, you're practicing mindfulness 6 inches or closer to your face, and then internally you pull up a picture of your inner child. In this process, you're creating so much profound healing for your inner child by activating their neural data and transforming it through the power of your loving presence. The present day adult self practices being attached to the inner child by internally connecting with them, by picturing them, and externally connecting with them by focusing on visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to the face. And again, the more frequently this is practiced, the more power it has. 5 minutes 3 times a day, every day for several months will produce a lot more healing than 1 minute once a week randomly. When healing from any type of early childhood pains, such as adverse childhood experiences or early life traumatic stress, this practice can help create new healing self-associations. Dissociation is very common with people who have experienced trauma throughout any period of life. And when there's trauma during the early stages of neurodevelopment, this dissociation runs very, 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 very deep within the neurobiological applications of consciousness. In this process of connecting with your hand while you're eating, or connecting with yourself in a mirror, or connecting with your inner child through daily mindfulness practices like eating an apple, as just a few of infinite examples, you're actually gradually creating new associations with yourself to help heal the neural data from early childhood sculpted through painful experiences. So when we practice loving presence and focus on attachment repair and connecting from the observational self to the experiential self, like linking worlds with the inner child, and you apply a concept like this where you're using visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to the face, then you're creating these healing moments that have energetic properties carrying power to transform underlying neurobiological core causalities of implicit battles or anything else that might have resulted from pain experienced during stages of early neurodevelopment. Mirror meditations and mindfulness practices with visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to the face has so much healing power that can be tangibly felt in the unconscious body-mind. Consistent practices can really help to liberate the inner child into the fullness of all they can be. My 26th thesis statement is that visual stimulus 6 inches or closer to the eyes directly connects with the inner child due to neurobiological activity beyond direct perception and immediate awareness.